Hello everyone and welcome to today's SmackDown watch party. The big news today, of course, is the return of Shinsuke Nakamura, who is being pitched as a big name, if not necessarily the biggest. I'm very interested to see how he's used, though the rumours are a little bit disappointing because it suggests that Karrion Kross is going to be put against him instead of someone a bit higher up the food chain. But we are where we are and we'll certainly take it because we're glad to see him back. Also, we're going to have Santos Escobar versus Damian Priest. Of course, this is continuing the Judgment Day LWO storyline that actually started well before WrestleMania. And we will also have Austin Creed... Nope. I was going to say Austin Creed up, down, down. Xavier Woods against LA Knight. And then our main event, as it were, our main draw, as it should be, is Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez celebrating winning the championships, the women's tag team championships, that is. I do suspect we may be seeing Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler tonight. So I want to start with the usual hellos. Hello Sean, hello Megan, hello Stuart. We also have plenty of people who've said hi before the show went live. Joe, Venom, Brad and Callie, welcome everyone to the show. We are live with SmackDown. We've had the pyro. We've got 6 likes already, which is a pretty good start. And we are off. Michael Cole calling it the most exciting show on television. He's a confident man. A very confident man. They're at the University of Nebraska. I'm interested to see how this one plays out. Because Raw, they did really hype up the fact that, in many ways, Vince McMahon was not going to be there. He is not at this show either. But I'm interested to see the layout of this show. No Roman. They've not advertised anything with the Usos, though we are currently hearing Kevin Owens' music. So I'd imagine we're going to start with a Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn and the Usos segment. We have good reason to be excited for this. Very good reason to be excited for this, outside of just the fact that we're getting great matches out of these. No Venom. No. Dylan says hi Tom as well. Hello Dylan. And James says you're live from before, didn't come up in my notifications or anywhere. Same as this one, I had to search your channel to find it. Interesting, James. I'm not sure why that might be. If you press the bell, it should give you the option to go for all manner of notifications. If you've gone for all notifications, there should be absolutely nothing stopping it. It's very confusing. While everyone's here, take the opportunity, just double check that you've not just hit the bell, but also got your notifications on for it. Pardon me. Welcome back 456. How are you doing? So glad to see so many familiar faces nowadays. No Venom. No. I said she is going to be the top face woman on SmackDown. This is likely to include title pushes, but I do feel that what we're looking at is not necessarily a Rhea Ripley level push, but a Ronda Rousey level push, which is technically higher and also technically not so high. It's an interesting one. But she'll be treated as a top face on the brand. It's a pretty good place to be. Andy is here as well saying hello, Tom. Hello, Andy. How are you? Sean says, Tom, I shared your clip of the Liv Morgan news and spoiler warning to a Liv group chat I'm in Twitter. Told them to subscribe. Hope it helps you out. I appreciate that, Sean. I very much do. I saw someone actually took a clip and posted it on Twitter as well. Let me just get the name. Connor posted it on Twitter. So far it's done, is that 4,804? It's struggling a little bit. 4,841 views. Lots of quote tweets. Just a lot going on. I'm going to click some likes. Because why not, you know? A lot of people hyped up for it. We have, in the ring, Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens soaking up the crowd's adoration. And there's been a lot of adoration so far. It's become the thing for Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens recently, just to let the hype go, you know, let it build up. And it really is built up. For a moment there, I thought Sami was doing We the Ones. Still lovely fun. Oh, pushing the main event thing. That's awkward. Bruce says SmackDown's over, which is weird because I've just started watching it. Not sure what you're seeing. Bailey says, hi Tom, a follow from spoiler warning on why Sami Zayn isn't going to Saudi Arabia. Sportskeeda has an article today saying that there is a diplomatic problem between Syria and Saudi Arabia, and Sami is closely identified with Syria in Saudi circles. I did address that as best I could during spoiler warning based on the information I had, but that is essentially what I was trying to say. Yes, it is an issue, and Sami Zayn has simply not been welcomed at any point to Saudi Arabia. They don't want him there, and in many ways he doesn't want to go either. Venom said it'd be good if Bobby moved to SmackDown. He'd been on Raw way too much and for some reason hasn't been on the SmackDown brand once. I thought he was going last year, but apparently not. Eric is only watching for Liv and Shinsuke, so the big pitch hitters today. Bruce likes good guy Sami. It's been a little while since we've had a face Sami, but this is working for him. Megan says poor relations between Saudi Arabia and Syria go back decades, pretty much the entire time the two countries have existed in their current forms. Yeah, and it doesn't look like changing anytime soon either. Doesn't look like changing anytime soon. Interesting that they mentioned the draft and the tag team championships potentially being split there. Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn pledging to be on both shows. Also, interestingly, I'm seeing Ronda Rousey has more than 10,000 tweets mentioning her. Interesting. Okay, so this is the first time they've really mentioned the possibility of a rematch. Not a surprise for us. Yeah, Keem, they could definitely go heel again. Forever's a very long time. The Usos are interrupting. They're after their rematch, I'm sure. James said they should do an 8-man tag before Cody gets his match against Roman. Sami, Kevin, Riddle and Cody versus the Bloodline. As much as I like some elements of that, I think that'd be a great vehicle for Randy Orton to return. Bruce, I'm not sure who the actual main event would be. The main event match, I suspect, will be the return of Shinsuke. But it's hard to tell at the minute. We may get the rumoured 6-man tag tonight, with Matt Riddle joining Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens against Solo and the Usos here. Eric says, do you think Jay will turn on Roman to go solo for a feud for the titles? Less and less as days go by. Less and less. Megan says there's been a bit of progress as both countries have agreed to work together to deal with drug trafficking and organised crime, but not much beyond that. Progress is progress. The less risk, the less, you know? Sean says, I do hope when the Usos get their rematch, they lose. I suspect they will be doing, but Saudi Arabia is coming, so maybe not. Thank you, Joe. I'll try my best for you. Try my best. Adam, you're asking me about a storyline that was pitched when Bray Wyatt was released. If he's been released, then no, that storyline is not continuing because he was released. The Usos seem to be really enjoying this, but I do like the look of disbelief on the face of both Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. Solo still saying nothing. My worry is that once Solo starts talking, he won't stop. And I'm not there for it. I still remember when the Usos first turned heel. And we suddenly realised that they can cut a great promo. The introduction of the Uso Penitentiary was around that time as well. Sean says, when do you think we'll see Roman yell at the Usos for losing the belts? No time yet. He's not going to be there for a while. And Bailey says, where do you rate the Usos amongst all-time tag teams? Amongst the very best. I'd be putting them up there, personally. I think overall their in-ring quality is just higher than any other team that I've ever seen in the WWE. And Megan says, Solo smiling is like Dexter speaking. When it really matters, it will happen. They'll pick the moment. It'll be a confusing and somewhat painful moment, but it will be a moment. Adam, you're doing that thing again. I've reported everything I know about Bray Wyatt. Every single thing that I know. And I've told you that several times. I had more on it earlier today, and I reported it. This is not the show where I report news. I report news on spoiler warning. And I've already shared everything I know. If I see you ask that question again, you know what's going to happen. No, Venom, I don't think Roman's on SmackDown tonight. Traffic says, I say Vince should really show his dominance and give Solo a dancing gimmick. That could be incredibly awkward. But hey, he's done worse. He's done worse over the years. Eric loves the silent killer vibe of Solo. And Dylan says, Tom, when do you think Randy will return? Well, Dylan, I actually have a video about this already on the YouTube channel containing all of the information that I have on Randy Orton's impending return, how it might be booked, and when it is likely to happen. You might want to check it out. Okay, so we have a 3-on-2 attack, so logically tonight, here comes Riddle. And there's a crowd. And here comes Riddle. Eric says, Tom, can you please explain the hate Eva Marie gets? Yeah, really simply. She was put in a position where she was getting big wrestling opportunities when she wasn't trained to wrestle, or at least wasn't trained to wrestle well. And there were other women who weren't given those opportunities who were trained to wrestle well. As such, people got really protective of the women who could wrestle well and got really, really mad at Eva Marie. I didn't mind her last run, to be honest. I think she did well. The wrestling itself still not great, but she did better than I expected as a manager. Riddle is taking down Solo Sikoa. Kevin Owens and Sami saying, I like that Kevin Owens immediately grabs his championship, but the Usos retrieve Solo. Sami with a really good sell of the grab there. Ghost says the fact that the Usos are 8-time tag champs is crazy. Have to be honest, I don't like just how many people have more than 5 championship wins in the same division. It shows how repetitive things tend to be. True. Very true. I mean, how many did Edge and Christian get over the years? I'm glad we're no longer in the age where, for example, we get 13, 14, 15 world championship runs. I'm glad we're no longer there. Roman's had a few, certainly, but nowhere near to that degree. Mark says, I'm here just listening in the background. Cool, mate. Welcome to the show. And we are on our first commercial break. There has been no actual confirmation of a match there, but I think it's pretty clear where they're going. Matt Riddle coming down to help out Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. Solo Sikoa already in play. Logically, we have a 6-man tag oncoming. I don't know whether I wanted to say oncoming or incoming there. Brad says longer reigns are more impactful, and I wholeheartedly agree with that one. Makes perfect sense if you ask me. Right, so I'm now very interested in finding out exactly how many reigns he's had, so let's find out. Just going to Google it. How many championship reigns? Oh, how many championship Roman Reigns has won? Actually, Charlotte is the most popular for that one. Roman is a 6-time world champion in WWE, having held the WWE Championship 4 times and the Universal Championship twice. So he's a 6-time champion. Eric says, I think Charlotte has the most active with 14. I do believe she does, yes. A 14-time champion, and I remain confident that it will not be long. It will not be long until that moment comes back. She'll be winning them again, and you all know it. We all know it. Dylan says, unless you're Charlotte Flair when you get a title opportunity every time because you're the daughter of Ric Flair and I cannot stand it. I don't think that's necessarily the reason. I think they just positioned her in a spot where she is the top female heel in the company. And so she'd been a transitional champion about 8 of those times. When the WrestleMania 35 main event was happening, they decided to cancel the match they were going to have, which was Asuka versus Mandy Rose versus Sonya Deville, add in the extra championship to try and get Becky Lynch, moreover. So Charlotte Flair won it, she was a transitional champion. Immediately after that, they had a pay-per-view Money in the Bank, where Lacey Evans challenged Becky Lynch for one championship, Charlotte challenged Becky Lynch for the other championship, won the other championship, and then less than 10 minutes later, Bayley cashed in her Money in the Bank and won that one. So it was a transitional championship. So it's not necessarily the Ric Flair thing, I don't think. It's that she's the default, and it's a problem. When in doubt, give the championship to Charlotte, in much the same way as many years back, when in doubt, give the championship to Triple H. Joey says WWE needs to give new women opportunities instead of only pushing Becky and Charlotte. Well, you haven't mentioned Bianca Belair there, who I definitely think is worth mentioning. Rhea Ripley, who I definitely think is worth mentioning. Both of them currently the champions. Liv Morgan, who had a championship run last year as well. So I think it's definitely worth pointing out that it's more than just the horsewomen getting the opportunities now. Of course, we also have Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez as tag champions now. Io Sky and Dakota Kai have had opportunities. There are people who are getting the spot. Sean says, do you think Alexa holds a championship again, or is that part of her career over? I very much think she holds a championship again. I just don't think she holds a top championship again. I don't necessarily know if they're willing to commit full time to Alexa Bliss at this point in time. I don't know if they're willing to do that. From every indication that I've had, they are not willing to do that. We are still in our first commercial break. This is a long commercial break. Hopefully it means less commercial breaks later. Venom says, I'd love for Bianca to whip Ronda. If they're having a match, the whip will definitely be in use. Joey says, I meant for people like Tegan, Emma and Dakota. Right, so what you mean is not the women who have been pushed, but your favourites. Because Tegan and Emma have just come back. Dakota is a 2-time tag team champion and has been featured pretty heavily. So I get what you're saying, but at the same time, you also have to respect that there are plenty of people who have had opportunities and not just the horsewomen. You can't cherry pick like that. Traffic says, El Triple H possessed for the world title was a different type of savage though, and loved it. And Joey, I do agree there. At least better storytelling for the undercard women. I agree with that. They have done a terrible job with the storylines for lower down the card. Okay, we're now getting a recap of something that happened 5 minutes ago. That's infuriating. Ghost says long reigns are impactful, but it's not as impactful when there are multiple people on the roster with that same feat. The Usos may not be champions anymore, but when they were, almost every main card champion held a title for 6 months or more, with the exception of the women's tag, SmackDown women's and US titles. Theory is also approaching the 6-month mark, and I think that's true. Hot potato is not necessarily a bad thing if it's just the one championship. Okay, so it sounds like we're going to have Matt Riddle versus Solo Sikoa in our main event tonight. I always like when they don't bother announcing a main event until the show already started. Clearly not the original plan. Bailey says, why is Alexa not getting support? She has very good in-ring skills. Her mic work is solid. At 32, she has experience and time ahead of her. Well, the main reason, from what I can tell, is the string of concussions that she had really kicking this one into gear. And at this point, they simply don't believe that she is going to be committing full-time to WWE. So they're not willing to commit full-time to her. That's the main reason. We have a backstage promo with Xavier Woods building up to his match upcoming with LA Knight. Feels like an up, down, down moment. Sai says, evening all, sorry I'm late, kitchen was on fire again. Weekly occurrence in our house. Could have done to recap for me though. There is a reason for recaps. Venom says, Backlash match card predictions coming soon. I need to put an actual video together for it. Keem, I completely disagree. As regards the mid-card title for the women, they have one. They're the tag team championships. The tag team championships are the mid-card championship for the women. They just need to use it properly. And the fact that they can't use the tag championships properly tells me that giving them an extra championship, which they also would then not use, is not a good call. Joey says, I'm wondering who Theory's next opponent will be. The mid-card division is a bit weaker on Raw compared to SmackDown. Well, there's a lot of people it could be. I think Bobby Lashley might be the guy again, to be honest, unfortunately. So our opening match, 20 minutes in, is Xavier Woods facing LA Knight. We'll see if the fans are as behind LA Knight now as they were before WrestleMania, because if they're not, the WWE will move on and ignore it. There was a lot of excitement behind the idea of LA Knight getting a match at WrestleMania. If he doesn't get a reaction from the crowd now, they'll look at it like Rusev Day, where eventually people just gave up on Rusev Day. They just gave up on it completely. They didn't believe that the WWE would push it, so they stopped trying to push it themselves. So the WWE stopped pushing it. This is all very awkward. Mark says the Bobby Lashley versus Bronson Reed rematch is going to be fire. Austin Theory versus Johnny Gargano could work. Austin Theory versus Bronson Reed, which I do feel is where they're building, would make me very happy. There are cheers for LA Knight, but I can't say they're substantial. Venom says, do you think Cody versus Brock will be a no DQ match? No. And Joey says, I think Bobby and Bronson Reed have a feud going on. They do, true, but that doesn't mean that it's necessarily out of the picture for a United States Championship to be involved. Dylan says, I don't like what they did to Asuka. First they killed her undefeated streak, and now she's losing championship titles because they didn't see anything in it. I was surprised at WrestleMania as well, to be honest. That is not what I saw coming. Traffic says, can't wait for Cody versus Brock at Backlash. Brock works well with average-sized wrestlers, and Cody could be a classic. He works well with smaller wrestlers. Average size is actually more than his repertoire. Real Run says, have you seen that Drew has blacked out his Twitter and removed any WWE on his profile? I have not. Interesting. I do know that he's currently in negotiations and he's trying to make sure that he gets a stronger push, and that includes WWE Championship opportunities once again. Venom says, LA Knight getting reactions. I did not hear what you heard. And Joey says, Vince dropped the ball on a lot of people. I remember when Damian Sandow was very over and he still got treated like a jobber. Yep, essentially. Sean says, Alexa is underrated in my opinion. Ghost saying, it just seems like the main roster booking is lazy and has been that way for a long time. These champions, excluding the bloodline as a whole, and you could argue for Gunter, do not have anything compelling going on. I would agree with that, particularly when you get to, for example, Bianca Belair. Rhea Ripley has only just become champion, so I'd say she's an exception, but not quite there yet. So I get what you're saying. We'll need a bit of time for her to bed in first. Megan just says, eye candy time. Bailey said Dolph Ziggler had an interview with Chris Van Vliet and recalled he has been wrestling 19 years, and whether he's asked to be in an opening match or a main event, he'll probably lose, but still give everyone a good show. Well, that's at least awareness. That's exactly what his position is. Exactly what his position is. Fair enough, Rule. Interesting. Thank you for letting us know. Venom says it makes no sense for Woods to win as part of a tag team, not a single star. Well, it depends. After all, if he was going to win King of the Ring, which he's not. But you need to remember, we don't know what's going to happen until afterwards. What happens in this match will be dependent on what happens in the future, not what's happened in the past. And so far, the match is real slow paced. Real slow paced. Wade Barrett is really trying to put LA Knight over here, suggesting to me that Triple H may well be listening. Xavier Woods, though, I feel is long deserving of a championship run of some sort. I think the United States Championship is the least you can ask for with someone like Xavier Woods. He does a big flip, he stands on the table. Wade Barrett is really leant back. He is scared. And Xavier Woods stands on the table and beats his chest. He is beating it. He is beating it hard. Brad says, happy to see that LA Knight actually using good wrestling gear. Was there an issue with his previous wrestling gear? Not that I'm aware of. LA Knight now running from Xavier Woods. The issue is, a lot of people are trying to get behind a heel. That's going to have limited success because the WWE need to keep him a heel. Joey says, I'm disappointed we're not getting the King of the Ring. I was looking forward to it. Me too, mate. Me too. And Thomas Phipps is here. You're right, mate. Says, hi, Tom. Sorry I've missed a couple of live streams. Been in for an operation on my ankle. Currently on strong painkillers. I hope you're alright, mate. What happened to your ankle? Was it a break or a fracture? Or... And Venom says, it's seeming like Woods is going to win. That is not how wrestling works, Venom. That is not even slightly how wrestling works. Sean says, Xavier is the only member of New Day to not be a singles champion. I think he'd be a very credible United States champion. And honestly, let's say Montez Ford did turn heel. Imagine Montez Ford versus Xavier Woods for the United States Championship. I would love that. Joey's apparently not a fan of tournaments. Interesting. We are into our second commercial break in the middle of the Xavier Woods LA Knight match. It looks like this match is going to go the distance. The main reason being that it's just sort of real slow paced at the moment. Brad just says, take my money as regards the idea of Montez Ford versus Xavier Woods. And in fact, tell you what, I'll tweet that because it's fun. I want Montez Ford. Nah, a heel Montez Ford. I want a heel Montez Ford versus Xavier Woods for the United States Championship. I'm not sure when we're going to see Shinsuke Nakamura tonight. Logically, I'd imagine it may well be the draw segment. That just makes the most sense to me. But there's no guarantee. No guarantee. Bailey says, I wonder if the New Day will retire as a group if Big E can no longer continue. They will not. And to my knowledge, Big E is not planning to stop wrestling. He still has a few tests to run, but all signs are positive. Chances are he will be back in the ring relatively soon. Relatively soon. I'm not sat here saying, oh, he'll be back tonight, because he won't be. But relatively soon. Sai says, I won't miss King of the Ring. I'm dreading which two gimmicks are going to wreck with a daft costume and English accent. I think Queen Carmella would be likely. After all, she goes from the Princess of Staten Island to the Queen of Staten Island. Long time coming, long time coming. Thomas says, rugby injury has caught up on me. Had a part of bone floating and doing more damage than good. I get you, I get you. Glad you got it sorted, mate. Hope you're feeling better. Venom says, Braun is not fighting Mello in 2 weeks at the NXT pay-per-view. Good. They just get it over with so they can call him up. And Joey says, I think the King of the Ring tournament could be good if the winner actually earns something instead of a king gimmick. To be fair, that was the original plan. It was the original way to decide who got the championship shot at SummerSlam. That was why King of the Ring was actually brought in. Venom says, do you think it's a while since we see Sheamus get the IC title? I don't know if we're going to see Sheamus get the IC title, first and foremost. And says, do you think Big E rejoins the New Day or goes for the US title? I think if he comes back, he's going for the WWE title. That's where he was when he left. Okay, it's not quite where he was when he left. Yeah, it's pretty standard. Pretty standard of New Day and any singles run that the New Day have, that immediately afterwards, they go straight back to the tag team. Straight back to the tag team. The entire thing is entirely abandoned. Entirely abandoned. Bailey says, how about Queen Chelsea Green? Queen Green? Chelsea Queen Green? I can see that. It would certainly add to the Karen power. And as we know, she works entirely on Karen power now, so that works out pretty well. We are back to Xavier Woods versus LA Knight. It seems like the tempo is increasing here, which is good. Definitely started slow, but it looks like before the commercial break it picked up at least a little bit, and now here we are. Okay, I'm looking at Drew McIntyre's Twitter profile. It has gone black, but his handle is still D McIntyre WWE. So can't say I'm sure on that one. We'll see if anything happens. I'll do some reaching out, but we'll see what actually happens there. They are trying to hype up the draft and saying this match is important to it. I'm really not sure it is. Keem wants New Day versus Bloodline. I'm sure we've had that. Or was it Shield? Was it New Day versus Shield at Survivor Series many years back? Yeah, we Shield. Still a great match. Joey says, people on Twitter think Drew is going to AEW now because he blacked out his Twitter. Well, if he's going to be going in a year. His contract runs for another year. Venom says, do you think after Roman loses the title we see the implosion of the Bloodline? Yes. I think him losing the championship is the implosion of the Bloodline. So I definitely think so. Yeah, right, Parrish. It says Drew won't leave WWE. I don't think he will either. It's a negotiation tactic. The negotiations haven't even started yet. People are getting really overexcited by this one. His contract runs for another year. They've got plenty of time to start the negotiations. and plenty of time to potentially get him back into the championship picture. Drew McIntyre, unfortunately, strikes me as someone who doesn't really want to pick up losses and help other people develop and help other people grow. His work with Karrion Kross was embarrassing for all parties. Agree as well, Parrish. Says internet need to stop creating narratives. Agree completely. The report that his contract was coming to an end was really confusing because it's not. A year's a very long time. That was a very strange choice to report it. But you never know, Drew McIntyre may have asked for it. We spoke earlier about people intentionally leaking information to wrestling journalists, so CM Punk has his favourites to leak information to, and so did Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks. Gotcha, Venom. Says, do you think KO, Sammy, and do you think KO, Sammy, and Solo's in the match, stick around to help Riddle if they try and get involved in his match with Riddle? Okay, Venom, try it again. I'm lost on that. Try again. Dominic says, hi Tom, does Roman have any other opponents besides Cody? Eventually, yes. Everything is on the table, and Roman is not exactly retiring at SummerSlam, so he'll have plenty more opponents. LA Knight is playing the whole dangling on the rope thing, which always looks awkward, but we got there. Once again, I'm not hearing the big push for LA Knight. People are really hyped for the match. People are enjoying Xavier Woods. I'm not hearing what people keep telling me is happening for LA Knight. Now that's a move from Xavier Woods I first saw by Isaac Yankem DDS. Sai says we should probably remember that McIntyre was dealing with health issues prior to Mania, although he doesn't black out his Twitter account without understanding exactly how that looks. Yeah, I would imagine he's trying to create a narrative himself, but I suspect that might be a storyline narrative. Just getting hyped up for his return. It's a way of doing it. See, you can vanish for a while, come back a couple of weeks later, and no one can really care. Or you can vanish for a while and make sure everyone cares when you come back. Rulrun says, I feel the same about LA Knight. I'm not personally hearing it. It might be because he's currently a heel working with faces. Puts him in a difficult position, but personally I'm not hearing it. Okay, I saw a lot of Xavier Woods' book crack there. It's more of Xavier Woods than I wanted to see personally. So Xavier Woods won. Much like Kofi Kingston won a couple of weeks ago against LA Knight. Much like Rey Mysterio. LA Knight's kind of jobbing at the minute. Venom says, do you think if the Bloodline try and get involved with Roman and the Cody's match again, if Riddle, Sammy and KO will help? Well, they did at WrestleMania, so maybe. It depends if Cody's still being friendly. Traffic's not happy with that one. Bruce and Brad both agree, which is lovely to see. So it says, get in the sea, Stone Cold Light. Sorry, unpopular opinion, I know. We're all entitled to our opinions, Si, and you know this. Mark saying, oh God, and Venom saying, this pissed me off. Why are they doing this? So you'll root for him more. So fans will root more for someone who's on the chase or someone who's an underdog. So if they want you to root for someone, they don't give them wins. They give them losses. That's what worked with Daniel Bryan. That's what worked with Sami Zayn. That's what worked with Seth Rollins. If they want you to root for someone, they don't give them wins. They give them losses. Dylan says, personally, I'd like to see Bobby versus Roman at Night of Champions. I don't understand why this match hasn't already happened. You have the option of Bobby Lashley, right, against Roman Reigns again, which hasn't happened since, I believe, SummerSlam 2016. Yeah. Which was really fun. Actually, no, 2 weeks after, they did another one, and then Roman somehow won and ended up challenging for the championship after losing at SummerSlam. There's a whole lot of things that happened there. But I really enjoyed the match. I think they work really well together, and I think they can get behind that. Venom, no, when Daniel Bryan was losing, he was a heel. When Sami Zayn was losing, he was a heel. It's what they do. It's what they do. Bruce says, I won the 24/7 title a few years ago. Nice, nice. And Daniela says, good morning. Good morning, Daniela, wherever you may be. Wherever you may be. Ghost says, I have a question for everyone. When the draft does happen, would you rather have a formal announcement of who each brand picks, or a random draft pick in a similar style to previous drafts from 2006 to 2012? So, this is a question for everyone. Sorry, one sec. I'm sorry, guys. Ghost is asking, when it comes to a draft, do you prefer someone announcing the picks or random picks where people just turn up? What's your preference? Bruce has asked, what is your favourite pay-per-view? I'm a sucker for a Royal Rumble. It's just an amazing show, top to bottom. Sean says, Roman always has Seth to face. There's history there. In fact, already has faced Seth, let's be fair. It wasn't a conclusive win or loss, but it was a finish. Sean says, do you and everyone think Joe Gacy's character could work in the main roster? No, and to be honest, I also don't think Dexter Lumis works on the main roster. For me, it just doesn't work. Daniela's happy for Xavier. Eric says, why does LA Knight keep losing? Which I've already answered. That's how they build up to someone. If fans care about LA Knight, they'll care more when he loses than they will when he wins. So I was answering that question. We have just had our first match, Xavier Woods versus LA Knight. Little slow pace for me. Little slow pace. I was a little disappointed with how we started out and how hype we weren't. But then as we started getting the flips, we started doing some off the rope stuff, I started enjoying it. I would give that match a 6 out of 10. Can I ask everyone here? Everyone here. What do you rate that match as? Sai's giving it a 6.5 out of 10. Brad prefers a formal draft in which there is announcements. Eric much the same. Andy prefers announcing picks. Venom just likes people to turn up. Dylan says random picks like when they did the 2004 one with Paul Heyman and Eric Bischoff. Lovely range here. Joe says, Tom, if you were in the WWE, would you be a heel or a face? I would be whatever they book me to be. You don't get a choice, really. You get told what to do. Andy gives it a 6.5. Mark's upset, gives it a 3 out of 10 because LA Knight lost. Stuart gives it a 6.5. Brad a 6.5. Rule Ring gives it a 5 out of 10. Very average, which is fair. Leon saying might be harsh, but 4 out of 10. Joe says, Tom, what would your finisher in WWE... Enjoy your superstar name. My name would be Tom Colohue, and my finisher is called The Rapture. I've described it before. It's called The Rapture. I did briefly do some wrestling training. Venom wants Indy Hartwell to drop the NXT title soon. Does she need to be called up? She's a champion in NXT. It's a pretty good spot. What's better, being a champion in NXT or being a nobody on the main roster? Daniela gives it a 7 out of 10. Dylan a 7 out of 10 as well. Venom saying it was okay, but it did drag out. Bailey has given it a 6 out of 10. Also says losing on TV with LA Knight is still much better than not being on TV at all, which I wholeheartedly agree with. Sean says, what were your thoughts in Triple H being drafted to SmackDown in 2004, then being traded back to Raw for Booker T and the Dudleys? I have no idea. I wasn't watching at the time. So I have no response. That's the first I've heard of it. Ghost says it was a 6. Kind of hard to get higher than that on Raw or SmackDown these days unless you're in the bloodline. Mark says, for the draft, I want to see the pick turn up and surprise wrestlers backstage. And Venom says, if you could choose which brand to go, which would it be? Raw, NXT or SmackDown? SmackDown. More people are watching it. Eric says, Tom, do you think Kushida or Steve Macklin leave Rebellion with the title? Probably Steve Macklin, because he's actually Impact. Eric prefers the idea of being a champion in NXT than being a fresh call-up on the main roster. Imperium are backstage. They are not speaking English. We have no idea what they're saying. Venom, we could have the way. Doesn't mean we will. Xavier Woods, fresh off his win, has turned up to Gunter, which suggests we may be getting an IC Championship match there. I'd absolutely take that. Joe says, I'd like to see someone announce the picks, what they've done before. Mark says the draft is coming in 2 weeks. Oh, of course, yes. Sai also saying, there's your draft announcement, 2 weeks' time. So right before a pay-per-view. Right before Backlash. Interesting. Ghost says, draft starts on April 28th. Nice. They formalised it. Lovely. And Mark just shouts, the ring general. It does sound like we're getting an IC Championship match next week. I'd absolutely take this. I'm excited by the concept. Bruce says, Tom, when do you join the bloodline? Well, I don't know if he knows this, but either one. Roman's not ready for me to join. So I saying Xavier's in good spirits after beating the Job guy. LA Job. JOB9. Dylan says, kind of funny, the past 2 weeks SmackDown's been better than Raw. To be fair, SmackDown's been better than the past 3 years of Raw. Joe gives the match a 5 out of 10. And Traffic says, Xavier was interrupted Gunter while he was talking to his friends, minding his own business. I mean, who's the heel? Mark suggests Gunter is going to destroy him. Venom says it doesn't look like NXT is involved at all in the draft. If there's no NXT call-ups or barely any, I will lose it, I swear to God. A lot of call-ups have been cancelled. I've been saying it for a while. And Andy said, I believe the 2016 draft was right before a pay-per-view. It was. It was right before Battleground, in which we had the Shield Triple Threat. Shield Triple Threat. Ghost says, looks like Backlash will be the time for any long-term stories to officially end, unless they're still on the same brand after the draft. I'd imagine that last Tag Team Championship rematch will fit in nicely there. Venom is raging. Wow. Bless you. And Bruce says, Tom would be the best good guy. Cheers, mate. Cheers, mate. I'd like to go anti-hero, to be honest. I'd just like to do my own thing, and whoever cheers or boos can cheer or boo. And Sai says, the first time they put some context to Riddle getting involved with the bloodline. It is. There is a lot of focus right now on Matt Riddle. They're not just bringing him back, they're making him important. If they can do the same for Shinsuke Nakamura, that's a good spot to be in. Kieran says, I'm assuming the Braun call-up has been cancelled for a while, considering he's just turned heel on Carmelo. The call-up has been cancelled multiple times for Bron Breakker. He's been told several times your call-up's coming, and then it hasn't. Eric, I'm not sure how many times Roman's been tag champion. I might not be the best person to ask. There's someone called Mr. Google. You may want to check out there. And Mark says, SmackDown has the start of the draft, then Raw has it after. Literally leading into the pay-per-view then. Absolutely, I'll take it. Sean says, I'd like to see IC title go back to Raw since it was synonymous with Raw. Was it? Was it? Not that I recall. I'll take it. You know I can't answer that question, Venom. If I did, I'd have already reported it. Kayla Braxton is interviewing Damian Priest backstage. There is a clear size disparity there, which I'm enjoying. Oh, Rhea Ripley there as well. And Dominic? No Finn Balor. No Finn Balor tonight. Ghost says, breaking news, I guess. Fightful Select has reported that Cody Rhodes has had meetings regarding potential acting roles. Guess he really likes Hollywood after all. We'll see. We'll see. I'm not certain that he's going to fit that world as well as he thinks he is. I do like that Rhea Ripley and Dominic are just making face at each other in the background. A little bit of background acting. You guys know this. Rhea Ripley just staring at Kayla Braxton there. I really quite enjoyed that. Just that moment of like, were you going to ask about Bob Bunny? How dare you? How dare you? Dylan says Roman's been tag champion once with Seth. Oh, back in the Shield days. Traffic says Cody got screwed over so bad at WrestleMania, now he has to act like he won the title. He absolutely doesn't have to act like he won the title. And Daniela says Finn Balor. No Finn Balor this week. Not on SmackDown at least. He wrestled on Raw. That was a bad shout. A bad idea. Venom says, do you think we get Bunny versus Priest one-on-one at Backlash? Nope. Nope, not at all. They're really leaning into the phrase The Judgment Day now. Previously it was just Judgment Day. I swear it was. The music's still badass. And it's confusing how much Dominic fits this group. When you look at the aesthetic of Damian Priest, the aesthetic of Rhea Ripley, and then you look at Dominic Mysterio, it doesn't feel like he fits, and yet somehow he does. Damian Priest, by the way, has not been pushed recently. He was really doing well until the moment, a couple of months before joining Judgment Day, when the WWE just seemed to forget about him. They just seemed to forget. In Judgment Day, he's not had the focus lately. Rhea Ripley and Dominic Mysterio have been the focus, and I can't blame WWE for that. They've absolutely drawn the eye to an incredible degree. An incredible degree. Right, Damian Priest has something to say to Bad Bunny. Venom says, who do you think wins, Santos or Priest? Priest. Dylan says, do you think we'll have a Judgment Day Bloodline match in the future? No, they're both heels. Rule Run says, Dominic really fits in. I was all for Dominic going to NXT prior to him joining the Judgment Day, but he's won me over. He's doing so well as a heel. I know Dave Meltzer has reported in the last few days that there was talks of Dominic going to NXT. There weren't. I reported a year before Dominic debuted that he would be skipping NXT. It's a contractual requirement. Part of Rey Mysterio signing up back with the WWE was the debut of Dominic and his use on the main roster, no NXT. That was integral to Rey Mysterio signing in the first place. It's contractual. And Eric says, I'm so happy it seems like they're finally going to give him something big for Backlash. I think we did see this one coming because of where Backlash is. He's a fine ambassador of that role. He'll get a good shot, but I think Bad Bunny's picking up the win. Hector says, I think my fave part of this potential push for the Judgment Day is the opportunities Damian Priest is going to get, because he seems to get the least spotlight, but he can go in the ring and isn't that bad on the mic either. I agree. And today's given him a real opportunity to show that. It's just very standard heel work. See if he can show what he's all about, and I like that. Ghost says, considering Finn was not only dealing with a nasty gash but also a calf tear suffered a little over a month ago, as he stated on Instagram, it was a horrible idea travelling the ring on Monday. I agree completely. The thing is, there were a whole load of people you could have got involved. You could have had Damian Priest, as aforementioned there. You may or may not note the very strong reaction that Rhea Ripley is having to Zelina Vega. I've asked around a little bit, and it sounds like at some point in the past, quite recent past, Rhea Ripley has specifically asked for a match with Zelina Vega. It looks like she may be choosing her opponents a little bit here. I'm sure it was lent on because they thought, oh, Backlash, considering where it is. But at the same time, that's pretty cool. Sean says Roman's only one-time tag champ. He won them with Seth at Extreme Rules in May of 2013, defeating Team Hell No. Seth and Roman lost the belts in October 2013 on an episode of Raw to Cody and Goldust, which it disappoints me that the WWE haven't highlighted that. Considering that it's Cody versus Roman, how have they not highlighted that? Yes, ruler and more rumours. Mr. Stumble says, do you think the LWO will turn on Ray and become a heel team led by Dominic at some point? No. I don't see any value to that. Like, genuinely, I don't see any value to it. Venom says, do you think we get Raquel versus Rhea soon? Not versus, no. There are, well, it sounds like planned to be a tag team for a little while, yeah. I mean, they're the champions, so logically I have to say that, yeah. But I think we'll see them shortly and see how involved they're going to get. Ghost says Zelina has publicly stated she wants a match in Puerto Rico. Rhea has been a pretty good opponent for her in the past. All they need, per usual, is a compelling story. I don't even think it needs to be particularly compelling. We've had the... In many ways, I feel after WrestleMania, people are kind of sick of the long-term stories, and they just want a few pitch hits and a bit of hot potato. It's a great opportunity for it. Sean says if it's going to be Rhea versus Zelina, then Peter Insider got it wrong when they said it would be Rhea versus Tegan. Thank you for sourcing that, Sean. I was not aware of that report. Not aware of that report at all. Stumble. There is going to be no interaction between LWO and Bloodline in that level and that degree. The Bloodline is not going to be around much longer, and heel factions are not going to be involved in it. Zai says no disrespect to them, but they're playing catch up with character development on the LWO guys. Feels a little like they've been rushed into this, although they're clearly ready based on talent alone. To be fair, I would agree with that. They haven't established who Legado were, so we don't really know who LWO are. We just know that they're linked to Rey Mysterio. That's kind of enough considering who they're wrestling at the moment, but it's not really enough long term. Mark says, sorry if I missed this, but you're doing a draft watch along. Doing a SmackDown draft watch along? I might do a Raw draft watch along. I've not really considered it. We'll see when it is. I'll have to stop and think about it, you know. Venom really wants Priest versus Volta for some reason. They won't do it. Why not? Venom. Both of these men have years ahead of them. You seem determined that what needs to happen is every match now. That's not the case. It's not the case at all. What they're going to do is keep building Volta, keep building Priest, and eventually when they do wrestle, they'll both be at a higher level. That's the plan. Okay? There's no conspiracy here. They're just not doing every match today. Rule Run, the draft show is the same as your normal shows. If it's on SmackDown, it's 2 hours. If it's on Raw, it's 3 hours. It'll get a lot of ratings, I'll tell you that. And this usually, over the next couple of weeks, ratings do start to dip pretty heavily for the WWE. I think it's around June where it absolutely flatlines. Ghost says it definitely doesn't have to be something long or Daniel Bryan-esque. Zelina just has never been one of the more popular women on the roster, which is why the story could help, so she doesn't just get somewhat of a typical hometown nationality-related pop. No, I agree with that. It's a fair point. If you want to add a bit more heat to it, it's absolutely right. She hasn't been built very well, historically. You're right there, Mr. Stumble. Did you seem irritated? Oh. Dylan says a recent report said Roman is not going to be missing Money in the Bank. Is he still going to be missing Money in the Bank in August? Money in the Bank is not in August. SummerSlam is in August. Money in the Bank is in June? Yeah, Money in the Bank is in June. As regards missing it, I have seen reports saying that he is. I've seen reports saying that he isn't. News to me. Megan says LA Knight and Damian Priest, double eye candy, love this show. SmackDown's definitely the show for you, isn't it? I'm sure there are people you like on Raw, but... Cheers, Ghost. I'll have a look at my calendar to see what I'm doing at that time. If it's a busy work day the next day, it's a busy work day the next day and I can't do anything. July 1st, thank you, Megan. Lovely dropkick from Santos Escobar there. I do like that all of the LWO is there to hype their men up. Few jokes being shouted by Joaquin Wilde to Dominic Mysterio there. Sean says Alexa said in an interview she wants to work with Rhea. Could Rhea suggest it? Rhea could suggest it if she wants to, yes. Alexa Bliss could suggest it as well. It's still down to WWE. Still down to WWE. We are coming up to the end of the first hour. We have 22 views right now and 17 likes. If you're able to, please remember to hit that thumbs up. It really does make a massive difference to the growth of the channel. Venom says, I heard Raw Watch Along earlier in draft. Does it mean there'll be a Raw Watch Along when the draft is on? I hope so. Venom, I need you to understand that the more you ask for it, the less I want to do it. I need you to understand that. Like, it's getting egregious now. It's getting annoying. So I'm more likely to do it if you stop begging for it. Though I do like that you're hyped up. It's a double-edged sword, because the hype that you have is really encouraging. I don't know. Leon says, SmackDown's my favourite weekly wrestling show. Such an easy watch. It is. This first hour is absolutely flown. Admittedly, it's mostly flown because I'm having a watch party. I'm not really focused on the wrestling. But that works for me, because I'm not a wrestling fan. I'm a wrestling fan, but I'm not a wrestling fan. You get me? I don't know if I've explained this recently. And I know there's a lot of new people in the chat now, but yeah, I know, mate, I know. But yeah, I describe myself as a non-wrestling wrestling fan. So I like pro wrestling. I don't like watching wrestling matches. I'm not going to sit here and say, this is a 5-star match. I'm more here for the ridiculous stories, the pantomime, etc. That's the one that does it for me. Dylan says, Roman and Seth both stated they'd love to main event WrestleMania 40 next year. Could it happen? Yeah, absolutely. Because nobody else wants to main event WrestleMania. Just Roman and just Seth. And this is the issue that they've got. Everyone wants to main event WrestleMania. And honestly, at this point, people are getting very annoyed that Roman's always the guy doing it. I'm not sure what you're referring to there, Eric. I'm not familiar with that word. Bailey says, Tom is a story fan, which I am. It's a good way of saying it. I like the ridiculousness, the showmanship. I like sports entertainment. I am sports entertained. At least by and large. I think that's why I like Gunter so much. Like, the wrestling matches are fantastic, but at the same time, he's a compelling character. He's an interesting person as well. And he tried to steal my phone. Leon says, I'm more into storylines and character work over wrestling, which is one of the main reasons I prefer WWE over other companies. Yeah, absolutely. This is the second match, Si. It's Santos Escobar versus Damian Priest. We did have Xavier Woods versus LA Knight earlier. I don't think there's many matches. I think we're only getting 4 tonight, but you know Triple H, he likes his half-hour blocks. Okay, Eric. Fair enough. But I agree with you, Leon. I think I like New Japan for the characters, but also for the wrestling. I think I'm a little spoiled there. Rule says, I'm the same, but I do appreciate a great match when it's a pay-per-view. And Brad says, I need to hear this phone stealing story. There's not much to it. I was interviewing him. I had my phone on the table to record what we were saying, and he just picked it up and started tapping away. And I'm like, what are you doing? I said, oh, my phone's upstairs. Yeah, that's not your phone. What are you doing? And he just put it down again. It was quite funny. Ghost says, I really wish I could book these shows. I'll nothing more than a good, memorable story that doesn't involve the same people all the time. Fantasy book something for me, Ghost. Go for it. Oh, that's a lovely move. Bailey says, today's stories are much better than what you see in the early WWF days. Those old shows are an hour of squash matches with cartoon characters. That's what people liked at the time. What people expected their wrestling is very different from what it was when WWF first started. There's a reason they had all those characters. There's a reason they thought the gobbledygooker was a good idea. At the time, that was what people did like. Well, to be fair, like 5 years before that, that's what people liked. And then you got introduced to things like the NWO, and yeah, no, not anymore. No, I agree with you there, Si. We're approaching the end of the hour now, and this is not a draw segment. Like, I like the Rhea Ripley's there. I feel she's in draw position, but no Rey Mysterio. It's not draw worthy. Venom believes we're definitely going to get Solo winning. Do you think after Cody wins the titles from Roman, they'll be immediately separated? I don't know. No idea. Leon says, I like New Japan too. My favourite wrestler there has left. Same. I still like a lot of wrestlers. I still like Tetsuya Naito. I still like Toru Yano. Oh, Toru Yano. But Minoru Suzuki's winding down. Jay White's gone. It's going to affect my enjoyment. But I'll still try and watch the G1, see how it goes. G1s are good. A top rope Hurricane Rana. Opportunities are being created here. But yeah, this is our draw segment. I expected Liv Morgan to be the draw segment, but here we are. It's official. I do wonder sometimes why people are so into the false finishes. Like, that was never going to do it. That was obviously never going to do it. But I enjoy the crowd's enthusiasm. Also, is it weird I quite like Santos Escobar's hair? Like, Zelina Vega's definitely done that for him. The crowd are very into this match. Both men are doing a very good job. Sly says, I've only had half an eye on it and I was late getting here. Have they mentioned Nakamura yet? No, not that I've seen. I'm not aware of any mention of Nakamura, though we did get the suggestion of Xavier Woods versus Gunter next week, so I'm happy about that. James says, Santos Escobar versus Dom would have been a better match. This ain't it. They did that last week, didn't they? No, they did that the week before WrestleMania. We've seen it very recently. Brad says, no mention of Nakamura. Benham says, I don't see Escobar pinning Priest without a roll-up pin. Well, happened for Xavier Woods. Sometimes you just have to believe. I'm very disappointed that they're not really pushing the return of Nakamura so far. My concern is that it won't even be a wrestling match he gets. He'll just pop up backstage. Benham says, why isn't Ray there? Ray has a limited day contract, doesn't he? I'm pretty sure he has a limited day contract. A Santos chant from the WWE fans. Always a good thing. And here comes the old cheating. The old Judgment Day cheat. Now we get to see what's happening with Rhea and Zelina. Or Damian Priest is just going to destroy everyone, no worries. Kieran says, Drew's done the typical blackout on social media. I'm excited to see how this pays off. If it's a plan. Eric says, me fantasy booking Rhea and Bianca to unify the titles. Jay White versus Will Ospreay versus Omega versus Seth. Usos versus Young Bucks. Roman versus MJF and BCC versus Judgment Day without Rhea. Yeah. Some of them are good ideas. Sai says, Shinsuke's my boy, starting to wonder if plans changed. I would have expected them to start hyping it. Oh, here we go. I thought we were about to get a pop-up powerbomb, but no, not so much. And that will be that. Leon says, Worked Wrestling are reporting LA Knight is the top candidate to win Money in the Bank this year. I don't think they're reliable, though. There is nothing that suggests to me that LA Knight is going to get a push. Nothing. And Sai says, Twitter blackouts are a thing for NFL guys who are after new contracts, just by the by. Benham says, Michael Cole got so excited when Legado beat up Dom. Yeah, he really doesn't like Dominic Mysterio. Damian's putting someone else through a table. Zelina Vega's moved to the other side of the ring. And here comes Ray. Yeah, I'm pretty sure they didn't actually say he wasn't there, just to be clear. Oh, they might just be playing his music. Let's see. There he is. Wearing an LWO shirt. Dominic calls him into the ring. Rhea's laying in wait, you can see her. Kieran says, realistically, whoever wins and wins Money in the Bank are failing a cash-in. Not sure on that one, because I think the winning are overdue. James says, why wouldn't they give Santos that win? Because they need to start rebuilding Damian Priest himself. They need to start rebuilding Damian Priest as a powerhouse. And ultimately, he hasn't had much love recently, so I get it. I get it. Sean says, I miss Damian using the Reckoning, but I understand why he can't. Because there already was a Reckoning in Retribution. Mia Yim, who we don't see a lot of anymore. I kind of want that Judgment Day shirt. But at the same time, I kind of want all of Zelina Vega's aesthetic. LWO stand tall. We've gone backstage. Paul Heyman just got off the phone with the tribal chief. Kieran says Judgment Day needs one more person as well for this to be a fair fight, or just one less from LWO. Paul Heyman hyping up the bloodline in general, trying to get some reaction out of Solo Sikoa, and I think he's just a bit bored. I think he's just bored. Hello Khalid, how you doing, mate? Solo's sick of hearing Paul Heyman. So I kind of knew exactly what he was going to say there, and I'm glad that I did. Good storytelling to take it to that level, but Solo did in fact speak, and you know what? I don't mind it. Nicely done. Nicely done. Oh, is it Sean? I did not realise. Here we go, Shinsuke Nakamura. Guessing this will be an up next. Nope, tonight. They are running through a lot of Shinsuke's credentials here. All of the championship wins, he has got quite a few. It is in fact Liv and Raquel up next. I think the last segment probably went over. Liv Morgan coming down in all white. She in fact, with her hair in her clothing, she matches her championship. She's blindingly bright though. And Raquel Rodriguez in all black with a harness. They still look nothing like a tag team. They just do not look like a team in any way. But they are tag team champions. James thinks Solo is slowly going to turn. I believe that Solo is going to get the Batista treatment, whether he wants it or not, and all power to it. Kieran said she looks good in all white. Sai says, I can get down off the ledge. There's my boy. His show is oddly paced tonight. I do agree. I think the last segment must have gone over. You feel like something's happened just to disrupt the rhythm. This feels like it should be our draw segment about to come in. And Kieran says, could this be foreshadowing a heel turn eventually for Raquel? What, wearing black? Is it foreshadowing a heel turn for me as well? Guys, I'm wearing black. Shit. Oh, God. Sorry, guys. I suppose I'm turning heel. Mark has given that match an 8 out of 10. Said he really enjoyed it. Andy's given it an 8. What did we make then of Santos Escobar versus Damian Priest? I quite enjoyed that. I think the finish was kind of overbooked. And it got a bit messy. But it was high-flying. It was athletic. It was fast-paced. I'm giving it a 7.5. 7.5. James says Batista treatment. Yes, Batista is a member of Evolution. The moment at the end where he got the face push from the fans, but he wasn't necessarily himself in any way moving in that direction until the opportunity finally arrives where he could do the thumbs down to Triple H and really turn face. If that happened to Solo Sikoa, I'd be a very happy boy. Sai has given the match a 7. Stuart has given it an 8. Brad has given it an 8. Khalid says, Tom, you will not turn heel. Well, we'll see how that goes. I can feel the hatred growing. Ghost says the fact that Raquel's now a 2-time tag team champion would be great if both teams weren't extremely random. Yeah, it was Aaliyah the first one, wasn't it? And then you've got Liv and all of her tag team partners. You can tell when they're not sure what to do with a certain woman. You can just tell when they're not sure what to do. Now, logically, this is going to be a championship celebration. Both of them going to be on the microphone. I don't necessarily know how much time they're going to give them on the mic, because by and large, there's not much faith in Raquel on the microphone, and Liv Morgan's done some good backstage promos, but they don't usually give her the microphone out in the ring. Then again, they very rarely gave Sasha Banks the microphone out in the ring, so you can go pretty far without being trusted with a microphone. Bailey says Raquel has no real character development outside her back. Yeah, but her back is very well developed. Venom gives the match a 7. Daniela saying yet another loss for the LWO. Yeah, the LWO aren't there to win. They are there to put over the Judgment Day. Kelly gives the match an 8. Venom says, do you think we get a tag match with Bunny and Priest? Yeah. Blue, how you doing, mate? Says, Tom, last week you mentioned Finn wouldn't be seeing much action recently due to his injuries, but he wrestled on Monday. So is there a chance Backlash is a 6-man with all of Judgment Day? It's not impossible. I stand by the fact that he should not be seeing much action because of all of his injuries. And he's not there this week, but we'll see how that plays out. Kieran said Dakota and Raquel held in NXT twice for a total of 4 days. Yes, of course they did. I keep forgetting about all of Dakota Kai's tag team partners. She's had a few, hasn't she? She's had a few. Sean said, is Liv someone that hates standing around waiting during commercial? No, not to my knowledge. She goes out and chats to the fans. She literally just walk around chatting. She's a very confident person, Liv. Very confident. Ghost says, I see them getting interrupted fairly soon after they start talking. They still have Shinsuke in the main event to get to, along with numerous replays and backstage segments, I'm sure. Personally, I do think this is the ideal moment for Ronda and Shayna to get back involved. Even just to cut a promo, as they are both still carrying minor injuries, just cut a promo. Get involved. This would be a good spot. So yeah, I agree with that. Maybe spend 10 minutes on this, 15 minutes on each of the remaining matches. Job done. Jeez Christ. We've come back from break and I feel like we're still on a break. Oh, actually it does make sense. We're getting a recap of the Tag Team Championship win. Leon says, really wish they would just retire the women's tag titles and replace it with a mid-card title. If they're not going to push tag titles, they won't push a mid-card title. They just won't. Venom says, would love if Roman is just doing a promo and AJ Styles hits him with a phenomenal forearm out of nowhere. Kind of heelish. Kieran says he can tell Liv really loves being in WWE. She's always retweeting her moments on Twitter and liking posts from fans. She genuinely does love this job and loves spending time with the fans. She's really enjoying herself. Blue says Dakota's the Owen Hart to the women's division. So good that they just team her up with whomever they think needs it. Blue, I've already read that one. Daniela says, let me get this straight. Finn wrestled on Raw and wasn't meant to because of injury. He's brought back in action after WrestleMania too early with the serious injuries he had. Yeah. Because of the travel issues, they need to pad out the card, and they asked Finn if he'd be willing to wrestle. He said, yeah, sure. They shouldn't have let him. Kelly says, I thought Ronda and Shayna were next for the women's championship. They have been carrying injuries, so they weren't able to wrestle next. Sai says, I clean forgot the big match of this weekend. Gladiators from around the world are in the UK to fight the bloodiest of wars. It's World Championship snooker time. Haven't watched snooker since the Stephen Hendry days, mate. Liked it as a kid. They've given Liv and Raquel a red carpet, which is lovely. I don't see microphones. I'm not sure why I don't see microphones. Isn't that what they're here for? Oh, they got pyro. Venom says if Roman said he wants AJ Styles, would he get it? Probably. He's Roman. James says, do you reckon Trish hurt Lita? Yeah. I mean, she got what she wanted, didn't she? Yes, Daniela, he's carrying multiple injuries. He's working injured. There are the microphones. He's working injured, so, you know. Do you remember when all he had for Liv Morgan was teasing a lesbian relationship with Lana? Mark says the fireworks scared Liv, which made me laugh. Yeah. Venom, do they talk about saving money on pyro? I've talked about them trying to save money on pyro when the budget cuts start coming in. I don't think they've talked about it. Sean says, how long do Liv and Raquel reign? I don't think for long. Personally, I don't think for long. I could definitely see Liv versus Rhea in the near future. Go says the tickets for SummerSlam this year are kind of ridiculous as far as price goes. They have a high demand, or Ticketmaster doing Ticketmaster things. They are constantly bringing up the cost of their tickets because they know they're going to sell out regardless. Hector says, Tom, any chance it was someone other than Trish that attacked Lita or no? No, it was Trish, but they'll always rewrite it if they want to. No, Sean, there were real travel issues. It wasn't a storyline. Oh, Sonya Deville is interrupting. So I said the crowd do not love this, which is fair. Chelsea Green and Sonya Deville are kind of matching. Danielle says the crowd are suffering. James saying, what even is this? It's not strongest. Blue says speculation, but I wonder if Finn, who's a bit old school, is worried about losing his spot, especially with Vince back. He was asked, he said yes, maybe, who can tell? It looks like we're going to get a title defense for Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez. If they're rushing to get tag title defenses, it suggests the reign is going to be a short one. Bailey says, not a great mic segment. It's not easy to keep a crowd engaged these days. True, and as I say, these two are not necessarily trusted with a long segment themselves. It's actually a very small amount of people who are trusted with a live mic for a long period. Sonya Deville is one of those people, for example. At this point, essentially, it's similar to Sonya Deville versus Charlotte Flair in that they were just trying to keep a strong heel in there with the faces, so the faces keep getting cheered. It's funny because they trust Sonya Deville with a microphone, but she's a seasoned loser at this point. It's not good news. Mark says Chelsea Green and Sonya are really good on the mic. I think Sonya's really good on the mic. I think Chelsea's doing a great job because of the character. And you know what? This character is perfect for her. Venom, for some reason, wants Liv Morgan and Raquel to lose the championships. Seems a bit unnecessary. We are scrapping. I don't think we get the match this week. I think we get this match next week. Which means next week is 2 championship matches and helps them to hype up neither champions. I do love that Liv Morgan went for her finisher and ended up just sitting very nicely on the ropes. So I says, I'm sure glad we're not rating segments. It wasn't the strongest moment, was it? A bit paint by numbers, a bit dull. A bit dull and a bit boring. But we have new champions. They've been formally introduced. Next up is the return of Shinsuke Nakamura. Now the rumour is that he'll be facing off against Karrion Kross, which is a awkward spot for everyone involved because Karrion Kross has not had the rub of the green since rejoining the company. When Nakamura, of course, does return, I would imagine we're going to get that match. It'll last maybe 10 minutes, another commercial break, and then on to our main event. So, not enough time to really make an impact. James says, that was a fantastic 10 minutes of my life. Can I get a refund? Megan says Chelsea's voice is the same pitch as my tinnitus. Yay. Ghost says, all I'll say is the cheapest tickets currently available for SummerSlam. It costs $200 without tax, or about £161 if you'd like to convert it that way. That does seem like a lot of money. And Sean says, was Chelsea Green a Triple H hire or a Vince hire? Both. She was hired at separate occasions by both of them. Khalid is excited for the Shinsuke Nakamura return. I know Sai is as well. I don't really know what to expect here. Like, I'm confident it's going to be a good match, but Shinsuke Nakamura is not going to have a microphone. That's not going to happen. We talk about Liv Morgan, Raquel Rodriguez not necessarily being trusted. They are not giving an open mic to Shinsuke and letting him run with it. They might give him a mic and give him like a catchphrase, but that'll be it. This is not going to be something you'd consider to be an opportunity. Daniela Zito says Shinsuke to face top dollar for Michael Cole. Well, and the Karrion Kross thing may have been wrong. Maybe Karrion Kross will attack from behind or something. Top Dollar hasn't had a lot of opportunities recently. I keep forgetting he's there. Brad says, I love Chelsea Green in Impact, and I'm loving her in this run. If she's got a good character to sink her teeth into, I rate her. But previously they brought her in and just been like, go out there and have a great match. And that's not something she can really do. She's a character actor. She'd do well doing the same role that, for example, Dominic Mysterio is playing. And Dylan says, having Nakamura versus Karrion Kross doesn't give me hopes for a push for Nakamura. I agree. And I did speak earlier about the plans for Nakamura, and they're not top level. They're just not. Daniela says, Shinsuke will say on mic, come on, and he'll go like that. And that'll be it. Fair play. That is the one catchphrase they taught him, and the one that they keep wheeling out. Wheeling out. Go says, my understanding is Shinsuke isn't booked for a match. I'm assuming this is setting up for the next feud. Names that come to mind, Gunter, heel turn by Moss, or Cross. Heel turn for Moss would be a good show. I don't think Nakamura is the ideal person. I think you'd want someone with a woman to balance out Emma as well. But then is that too similar to Karrion Kross? The football team's called the Nebraska Cornhuskers. What's a Cornhusker? And don't say one of them. Khalid says, Top Dollar, I like him in his group, but now he's a heel. Yeah, they needed something. And it kind of works, also kind of doesn't. Khalid says, Tom, anytime we see Gunter turn face, eventually, yeah, I'm sure we will. Oh, Nakamura with some new gear. Can't tell whether it's black or it's blue, but I can tell you I like it. He's got a bit of 3D graphic. Still a face, as you can tell by the choice of music. No real massive presentation here. I'm a little disappointed with this. I don't feel like they're making that big a deal of it. Kevin says, damn, hate to see LA Knight lose matches for no reason. I believe the reason is that Xavier Woods was facing Gunter the week after. Sai says, finally, my boy Shinsuke can end my boycott. I want to be against a heel turn if it gives him a good run. Venom says, which would... He says, been better so far this week, Tom, Raw or SmackDown? Well, I only watched the clips for Raw, so SmackDown. I think this has been a good SmackDown, to be honest. And he says, when was Hit Row last seen on TV? A while back, I think. A couple of months. Daniela says, his opponent's not ready in the ring, so maybe it is Cross. Maybe it's Madcap. Well, apparently according to Michael Cole, not so much. Let's see how this plays out. Oh, it is Madcap Moss. Honestly, this is starting to sound heelish. Emma's hyping him up and it sounds heelish. Khalid thinks LA Knight is going to Raw in the draft. Emma thinks Madcap Moss is going to be a top pick in the draft, which he will not be. Like that he will not be. James says you'd think he would be talking on the mic before his match, though. Not Shinsuke. Nope. That is just not something they will ever allow Shinsuke to do. He is not someone that they trust with a microphone. Cornhusker is a farmer. Fair enough, Bailey. Interesting. Sean just shouts Shinsuke. Hector saying the old Shinsuke theme is back. There is hope in this world. Tom, is that back for a while? Let's be fair. Ghost says, remember that phase when Shinsuke would hit low blows left and right? Yeah, that was a time. It was indeed a time. Hector says, Emma's a bad girlfriend. How dare she feed him with lies? I mean, she hyped him up, as a good supportive girlfriend should do. He's going to get destroyed now, though. The bell rings and we have 35 minutes left of tonight's SmackDown. 15 minutes of which will be commercial breaks. So we've got about 20 minutes left. Oh, well, that was awkward. I don't know what's happened here, but Madcap Moss's fall-away slam didn't happen. Shinsuke Nakamura not happy with the wrist on his mouth. Yeah, something's gone wrong there, but hopefully he's got back into his groove. He seems to. Kieran says he'll be a Twitter pick after the show. Yeah. Dylan says, whatever happened to Rick Boogs? Is he injured or was he let go? He's on Raw, mate. He was back a couple of weeks ago. Venom says, I thought it was Cross. Maybe. Maybe it will be. Maybe they saw the report and changed it. Nothing saying they can't. So it says, as regards Moss, if ever a guy needed a new gimmick or a new name. Daniela says, why on earth did Madcap come out after Shinsuke? So that Shinsuke could get his celebration first. So that people could be hyped up for him. It's not unusual. I mean, that's that. That was brief. That was kind of a nothing match. Mark says, Madcap not looking good in this match. Indeed. Kieran says it was a bit of a mess. Sai is giving it a 4 out of 10, mainly out of sympathy. That was a 2. I don't know if something went wrong and they decided to call an audible and wrap it up. Brad calls it a dud. Madcap Moss attempted to attack Shinsuke Nakamura after the match. I don't know why. I don't know, like... Well, he was a face. I'm guessing this is a heel turn for him. Emma seems to be bringing out the worst in Madcap Moss. Shinsuke Nakamura defended himself very easily. Venom says, well, that was crap, which is not unfair. Ghost says, was I right about the heel turn? Feels like I might be right. I feel like you might be right, Ghost. Bailey says, for everyone who wants to bring up Indy Hartwell or Cora Jade to the main roster without a compelling storyline, you get Emma. Here's Scarlett. With a tarot card image of Shinsuke Nakamura. So it does look like Karrion Kross has got his eyes set on Shinsuke Nakamura. For some reason. I'm guessing then Shinsuke versus Karrion Kross happens at Backlash. Sean says, Notorious Wrestling posted a picture of their Instagram story, rumoured draft plans. Okay. It's always nice to have some rumours. Up next in our main event then, we have half hour left of the show. We have Matt Riddle versus Solo Sikoa. I am starting to think that the segment with the Judgment Day and the LWO went over by 5-10 minutes. And so they cut it from the Shinsuke match. 2 in 1, Ghost. 2 in 1. Celebrate. Have a pat on the back. Go for it. Go for it. Leon gives the match 2 out of 10 and says at least Shinsuke is back, which is a silver lining. Daniela says, happy to see Shinsuke back. Congrats on the win. And Mark says, 1 out of 10 for Madcap and Shin 8 out of 10 because he's that good. I disagree with that one. Sai says, that's me done. Thanks, Tom and all. Have a great weekend, everybody. Thanks for joining us, Sai. I'm both sorry and grateful that it was very late in the day that you got your wish. And Venom saying we've seen Mr. Irrelevant carrying Cross, which is not unfair. Like, carrying Cross has done nothing of note in his entire run so far. He's lost to Drew McIntyre, lost to Drew McIntyre, lost to Drew McIntyre, and lost to Drew McIntyre. And even when he's won against Drew McIntyre, he's looked like he's lost against Drew McIntyre. I still remember him picking up a win and then immediately being utterly destroyed by Drew McIntyre. So he ended up looking like the loser. Because that's Drew. Andy said they wouldn't mind Cross versus Nakamura Backlash and gave the match a 4. James says, I think Nakamura hurt himself at the start when he fell backwards. Definitely something went wrong with that fall-away slam. I don't know if Madcap Moss hurt lost his footing or what. Sean says, Bobby Lashley versus Austin Theory announced for Raw. Well, it's almost like I had a vision on that one. I had one source on it, I couldn't confirm it. Ghost says the match was a 2, one because Shinsuke's back and one because Shinsuke's gear looks great. And Hector says, I like how under Triple H we can't get Shinsuke versus Madcap week after week, but instead Shinsuke wins as expected and immediately is shifted to a new feud. And while I agree with that, a lot of people are quite unhappy about the whole LA situation. Less happy about that one. Daniela says Ricochet and Braun versus Viking Raiders feud on hold till next week. Seems so. If it was supposed to be this week, they certainly haven't hyped it in any way. And Kieran says Karrion's first feud should have been with someone like Dolph. Yeah, Drew McIntyre was the wrong person to debut against. Absolutely the wrong person. You were never going to get anything from that feud. Dylan says, I'm glad we didn't get Karrion Kross versus Roman. I think the match would have been crap. Yeah, in the end, so do I. And I'm kind of glad. It's certainly, there are rumours that Roman shut it down. That the plan was to have a championship match and Roman was just like, I don't want to work with this guy. There are rumours of that. If so, right call. Venom, I'm not sure. I haven't seen the announcement. Leon says, no idea what happened with Kross because when he returned, he was instantly in the main title picture, but he's fallen completely since then. Strange. Was he in the main title picture or was he just attached to Drew, who was? Joey SmackDown's been alright. Been alright. Match quality's been okay. Storylines have been okay. Yeah, we are where we are. Khalid wants Bray Wyatt versus Karrion Kross. And Andy says it sounds like Drew's not a team player. Not in my experience, no. Not in my experience. Other people I'm sure will have different opinions, but I've never really seen the guy sell and really put someone over. Like, he took the pin. Gunter pinned him at WrestleMania, as expected. He wasn't happy about losing to Gunter, but that was the job and he did as he was told. But, yeah, he has not given a lot back to many people. Like, at all. Joey says, is the wrestling being good? Yeah, by and large. Shinsuke versus Madcap Moss, not so much. But the first two matches are great. I really enjoyed Santos versus Damian Priest. The main event's going to be Riddle versus Solo Sikoa. That could be quite fun. Khalid says, Tom, do you want to see Drew turn heel again? Yes, and I have done for a very long time. I just don't necessarily think that there's enough about him as a character, as a face, to really go behind it. There's not the personality there. Raul says, I'll never get over how good Shinsuke's theme song is. We need to go back, I feel, to Shinsuke versus Seth Rollins. I know they've had a match before, when it was Survivor Series US Champion versus IC Champion, but I want to see them go back to it just so the fans can sing both themes. And Blue says, weird to hear that about Drew considering his career up to this point. And yet, when you watch it, it's true. He doesn't sell. Here we go. Braun Strowman and Ricochet are walking backstage. Logically, are they going to run into the Viking Raiders? No, the Viking Raiders are going to run into them. Considering Braun was originally the monster among men, he's not really a monster anymore, is he? Ghost says, I can see comparisons between Drew and Edge. They don't necessarily put people over, but they tend to only want to face people that don't need it. True. Very true. There's definitely some comparisons there that are worth considering. It may be one of the reasons why Drew has been moved out of the top picture for a while. Sarah Logan is screaming. It's kind of annoying. So, in typical WWE style, we're now down to just 25 minutes left. Once we have the entrances, we'll then only have 20 minutes left, and we'll have another commercial break. Then we'll only have 15 minutes left, including a commercial break, and get only 10 minutes of wrestling. Good old World Wrestling Entertainment. I do like that Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn have swapped from being Cody Rhodes' best friends to being Matt Riddle's best friends. I also like that Kevin Owens checked his 6 there, just to make sure no one was attacking him from behind. Sami Zayn dancing to Riddle's theme is quite fun. I'll give him that. The man knows how to be entertaining. Venom says, do you think Pete Dunne is separate from the Brawling Brutes in the draft? Does it go back to the Bruiserweight? Personally, no. I think the split up will happen with an attack on Sheamus, but we are where we are. Blue says, you're definitely not wrong, Tom. It feels like the only guy he really sells to is Sheamus. In many ways, I feel like Sheamus forces him to sell by seriously hurting him. That's what I see, personally. Danielle says, Ricochet did try to fight back, to be fair to him. And Kieran is saying it's why I don't watch Raw live. True, but SmackDown, at least, by and large, has been a good show. Venom says, that's what I was talking about earlier, Tom. I feel if Strowman goes back on his own, he might be an unstoppable monster again. They don't want that. Triple H does not want an unstoppable monster. He wants someone a lot more vulnerable, who's able to show off his strength, but not the same character. He does not want the same character. You see, Braun Strowman as a monster among men had diminishing returns. Because eventually you have to put him in a wrestling match and eventually he has to lose. At which point, it all started going wrong. Leon says, I wonder if Braun didn't do what he did, the tweet. Do you think he would have been booked better instead of being in a makeshift tag team? I think he would have had bigger opportunities, but I don't think he would have made WrestleMania. Possibly Andy Barr. I don't necessarily think that they will. Joey says, I imagine WWE is going to sell a lot of LWO shirts when they go to Puerto Rico. That is in many ways why those shirts exist. Blue says, Drew basically wants to be working in New Japan. He has worked in New Japan to my knowledge and did pretty well over there. Danielle says, for me, even NXT is more entertaining than Raw. SmackDown most entertaining, then NXT, then Raw. To be fair to Drew, when I've seen him wrestle in the Indies, he's really given back then. I saw him lose a match via roll-up to Noam Dar. There were tombstones and everything. Noam Dar just kicked out of everything. It was kind of infuriating to watch at the time, to be honest. Go says, who do you believe is the most important draft pick of all time? Quite possibly AJ Styles to SmackDown in 2016. Yeah, I think AJ Styles to SmackDown. Considering everything that happened afterwards, including the championship run, the face that runs the place, I think he's perfect. Sean says, I still want Solo by himself. I don't think he needs the bloodline. I think the bloodline is a good way to launch him. I'm very surprised by how well they've done with him. I expected him to be kind of wasted in the bloodline, just fading into the background, but he's stood out in his own way. Hector says, Tom, WWE is essentially telling us that Matt Riddle has been off TV this whole time due to Solo. Right. Yeah, nothing to do with the, rehab. Nothing to do with it. Wait, what's happening in 2 weeks? Okay. So our rematch is not happening at Backlash. It's happening on the draft episode of SmackDown. That'll be our main event. That's a good one. Joey loves Solo Sikoa's entrance. Venom is saying, I hope Strowman gets the US title soon. I'll be against it. And Joey says, Noam Dar made his return to NXT. He brought the Heritage Cup with him. Rule says, do you see LWO finishing pretty soon after Puerto Rico? No, I think they'll be using that branding for a while. Danielle says, Bronson Reed will probably interfere in Lashley's match versus Fury this Monday. And Blue's asking your current favourite finishes for the men and the women. For the men, no question, End of Days. It's an amazing finisher. End of Days, any day on that one. Now, as regards the women, that's a little bit harder. Because, to be honest, most of the options aren't particularly strong. I like that they've got a lot of submission moves, but not necessarily always the best move. I think, ultimately, Bianca Belair's probably got it. Just because of everything involved in the theatrics in it. Though Rhea Ripley's definitely up there. Dylan says, I heard people say they want Randy to beat Roman. I'm not a fan of that. Alright. And Mark says, when Heyman said he's losing patience with the both of you, he was looking at the Usos. He was. Daniela says, I love how Solo keeps his face straight all the time. Very, very well practiced at it. And John says, hopefully KO and Sammy retain on draft night. I expect both of them to go to Raw, just to be clear on that one. Firmly to Raw all the way. Venom says, do you think the Usos will win the titles back? Nope. No, I do not. It's just not what I expect personally. So, I didn't want to be right, but I was right. What happened was we had the introductions and then immediately went into a commercial break. Which means we'll get 15 minutes of actual match, 5 of which will be another commercial break. Yay! James says, why wouldn't the rematch be a Backlash? Because they have other plans at Backlash. Which once again does suggest to me that they're going to lose the championships, but I just don't think it'll be against the Usos. The Viking Raiders, maybe. Kieran says, Emma Moon used to have the best finisher. I did quite like the Eclipse, yeah. That was some good stuff. Though I will say, I know what's the worst, and it's Ronda Rousey's armbar. Not something I expected. Dylan suggests the Street Profits. I don't necessarily see them losing to a face team. I don't see it. If you're going to have them lose, even briefly, you might as well make a big heel team and get the benefit of it. Venom says, do you think they go to Raw and then the Usos maybe get the SmackDown tag titles? No, but I do think they go to Raw. Kieran says, if we go old days as well, Victoria's Widow's Peak was nice. It was, that's true. If we're doing that, the Glam Slam probably needs to get mentioned. Okay, so I would say we have relatively high expectations for this match. Solo Sikoa has been delivering good quality. Matt Riddle's Matt Riddle. He can really play a powerhouse role, if need be. Solo selling, I think, is still a bit basic and needs a bit of work, but I feel we'll get there. Working under the Roman tree is always going to be a big benefit, let's be fair. Okay, we are back just in time for NASCAR. We're talking NASCAR. Just killing time now, aren't they? They're just killing time. They have confirmed the rematch for the Tag Team Championships 2 weeks away. Ghost says they'd like to know that Rampage is currently starting for a championship match between Aussie Open and Best Friends. Wow. I hope they fixed up the cuts for Aussie Open. The hyping up next week where we have Gunter versus Xavier Woods. And also the Women's Tag Team Championship, Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez versus Sonya Deville and Chelsea Green. The week after, of course, is where we have our Tag Team Championship rematch from night 1 of WrestleMania. Also next week, Braun Strowman and Ricochet versus the Viking Raiders. 3 out of 4 matches have been announced ahead of time. How confusing. Venom says, who do you think gets the SmackDown tag belts if they go to Raw? Probably Street Profits or Viking Raiders. I mean, they're right there. No, Kieran, I've not seen that as of yet. James says Ronda Rousey's armbar is very safe. Their elbow's always the safe way around. Yeah, because there's no even attempt at making it look like there's hyperextension. Joey says SmackDown main events are always fast. Can they put these commercials at a different time? Unfortunately, I don't believe that they can. The Soul Snatcher, I like that. I like that. Sean says SmackDown in Columbus, Ohio next week. Return for Alexa Bliss. It would get a nice pop since it's her hometown. Alexa Bliss is on Raw, so unlikely she'll be returning on a SmackDown show. At the very least, they would announce it ahead of time. As this is a 15-minute match, we are starting once again relatively slow. Matt Riddle trying to lock a sleeper in to Solo Sikoa. I'd imagine most of it until our commercial break is just the attempt to get Solo Sikoa down. The crowd are not infused by this. Not the strongest start. It is literally, this is the fourth time he's tried that sleeper. This is not entertaining. Especially knowing that no one say Glargay, which is what you have to say as per Jeff Jarrett. Daniela says, just to be clear, the draft starts not next week, but week after. Yes, 2 weeks away. 2 weeks away. Dominic says, what time is it out there? It is 2:45, so it is 2:46 at the moment in the morning. Kieran says, Sol Ruka's finisher is like a springboard front flip from the corner rope into an RKO. Sounds similar to the Eclipse, to be honest. Venom says, I really hope titles are separated on the draft week, maybe leaving the SmackDown tag titles vacant. Yep, that's kind of what I expect. And James says, what's the odds? There's 2 ads during this match, just a feeling. Typically, it'll just be 1 based on their usual standards. A mention of Drew McIntyre there from Michael Cole. Interesting that he should choose to do that, given what's going on with Drew McIntyre at the moment. I have to make a video tomorrow about Drew McIntyre going dark. Might do that before bed. Or I won't. Dylan says Solo Sikoa kind of looks like them making the next Omega, which I'm not a fan of. Do you mean Umaga? Logically, I'd imagine you mean Umaga. Bit of a scrum happening outside. I'd imagine the referee's going to send them all out. Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens have been sent to the back. And the Usos going as well. Good officiating. It's a one-on-one match. Get out of the way. Jey Uso is heartbroken. True, Brad. That is his uncle. I don't think they're trying to make him look that way. I think he just looks that way. Matt Riddle attempts the roll-up. Oh. If that was an attempt at a Samoan drop, Matt Riddle did not hang on as he should. He just went flying there. And commercial break. It just kills any momentum that this match could have. Do they always do a commercial break with 10 minutes to go? I miss the days when we had Roy's War and we didn't have commercials during matches. I don't understand why we have commercials during matches now. If you're tuning in for wrestling, it's just infuriating, surely. But I suppose I can see why they do it. I just don't like it. Sean says, I saw the outcome of Roman versus Cody got a lot of criticism by fans and friends of Cody like Sammy Guevara and Dustin Runnels. They believe Cody should have won and WWE should have sent the fans home happy that night and said Solo coming back after being ejected was stupid. They're entitled to their opinion. They're being kayfabed. Ghost says SmackDown is trending number 2 in the US, which is great since there is not only a basketball game, but the beginning of American music festival Coachella, which coincidentally features Bad Bunny later tonight. Cool, okay. Adam, there are no updates on Triple H's position as head of creative. Triple H currently is in position as head of creative. Anyone who has a further update other than something that's immediately like, oh, he's gone for good, is completely guessing. We did, Joey. We did. Kieran says, it's crazy to think you actually watch like 45 minutes of ads on a 2-hour show. You do, because if, for example, I'm going on BT Sport the next day and doing a catch-up, the actual show lasts about an hour and 17. A third of the show is ads. If you're watching Raw, an hour of the show is ads. An hour. Dominic says, do you like the name change to Night of Champions? I don't see the benefit of it. I suppose they're making a change, but I just, I don't get it. I'm going to need some context. I'm going to need something. I just don't think they're going to give it to me. I just don't think they're going to give it. Kieran thinks it's one of the best named pay-per-views. I don't really care that much about the names, to be honest. Honestly, the only name I really care about is Great Balls of Fire, which I definitely think they should do again. Because I really enjoyed the first Great Balls of Fire. I mean, it's called Great Balls of Fire, what's not to like? Had some great matches. Samoa Joe versus Brock Lesnar. Roman versus Strowman in the ambulance match. We had Alexa Bliss versus Sasha Banks. There was a lot of good stuff there. Great Balls of Fire any days. Any days. I didn't need to pluralise that. Great Balls of Fire any day. Do you have Great Balls of Fire? If so, I want to see a doctor. I don't want to look at them. Even when we get back, we're advertising a biography. It just all seems unnecessary. This is a long commercial for WWE Rivals. Ugh. Ruleren says, I think they'll bar anyone being at ringside for SummerSlam, which plays a big part in Roman's loss to Cody. True, but to be fair, Solo Sikoa was barred from ringside. He just came down anyway. Adam says, Vince seems to be high on Bronson Reed. Triple H is high on Bronson Reed. Triple H has booked Bronson Reed. Joey says, a couple of weeks ago, Zero News said he was quitting reporting wrestling news. Then the next day he came back. Yeah, that happens a lot. Doesn't surprise me at all. Some people just get really addicted to the feeling of being important and kind of forget that they're not. Daniela says, I randomly remember Johnny Gargano versus Ricochet when they were in NXT for the North American title. I don't think I saw that. I don't think I saw that one. And yeah, that's the vibe I would get, Joey. That's the vibe I would get. Ghost says, AEW announced that next week's broadcast of Dynamite is coast to coast, and Rampage will be presented on Saturday night. And Sean says, I believe the match at Great Balls of Fire between Sasha and Alexa was the best match in their feud, as do I. Solo Sikoa is in control at the moment of this match. He's not great at the whole headbutt the ring post thing. He's not bad, but he's not great. Riddle's back in action with a really limp ankle. Mark says Bronson Reed's going to be great once he gets a character, as his in-ring work is great. And I don't think that can be overstated enough. There is a lot of people with great in-ring work, and it means absolutely nothing with no personality attached. Cody. Joey Zero News never had credibility. I mean, they reported at the Royal Rumble there was going to be a stare down between Steve Austin and The Rock. There was never any suggestion of it. Daniela, why are you hoping for an ad break? It's very strange. Dylan says, honestly, I don't get why Matt Riddle is involved with the bloodline. I mean, why not Randy? Because Randy Orton is injured. Randy Orton is not back. If Randy Orton's not there, that might be your answer. Joey says, I think The Miz would be a good mouthpiece for Bronson Reed. The Miz is a good mouthpiece for Bronson Reed. They do work together. The Usos are returning to ringside. The ref clearly not happy, but that doesn't really matter much. They're not exactly trying to be nice to the ref. Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn coming down again, as per. This is feeling massively overbooked so far. And the fight is on. It's all building towards the main event 2 weeks from now, of course. Cameraman just got beat up. They're really hyping this up as a WrestleMania main event rematch, aren't they? That's definitely the storytelling that they're going for. The Usos seem to be ahead here, and Matt Riddle has attacked the Usos. Nearly cleared him, in fact. That distraction might cost him in his little tiny purple pants. Every now and then you realise how small they are. It cost him. Super kick wasn't great. It was to the gut rather than the face, but he'll take it. And that'll be Matt Riddle. Solo Sikoa picks up the win because the bloodline will be the bloodline, like it or not. Joey says, why did Cody call Backlash WrestleMania Backlash when the show is still being advertised as Backlash? Habit? An accident? Does happen. Yeah, pretty predictable in the end there, James. You are absolutely right. Solo is definitely still being built pretty strong. I just don't know how sustainable this is long term. I don't think he's the guy, you know? Solo isn't done. Adam says, Tom, have you ever been wrong on anything you report? Yeah. Every reporter has at some point been wrong. Every single reporter. I promise you. Every one of them. Either you've been fed a piece of wrong information, or what you've said is accurate and then something does change. That does happen at times. There's plenty of different reasons for it. Or at some point, particularly maybe if you're early in your career, you might get a bit overzealous. You hear something from one source and you think, oh, wow, that's huge, I need to report that. So you do. And as it turns out, one source is not enough. And so you learn and you get better. That does happen. I promise you, every wrestling journalist gets things wrong from time to time. It happens. Daniela says someone needs to give Riddle assistance before he's out for another 4 months. Well, I believe they call that a sponsor. Ghost, thank you, says opening match is over, no spoilers, and FDR is on their way out to the ring. Just confirmed that they signed a 4-year contract. No revival return for now. A shame. I really think Triple H could have done good stuff with them. But Triple H ain't the only thing there now. And I do think, unfortunately, it also has a lot to do with CM Punk. Sean says, does Matt Riddle get involved in the title match in 2 weeks? Yes, because Solo Sikoa will do. They are indelibly glued together now. Dylan says, do you think Roman will be on SmackDown next week? No. I don't think we'll see Roman Reigns for a while. Mention of Randy Orton there as well. My suspicion is that they'll be moving in the draft Sami and Kevin Owens away from the Usos. The Usos will then work with RK Bro when RK Bro return. That's how I see this going personally. Well, Adam, learned a lot about you there. Learned a lot about you. Because I don't think I've disputed any outlet more than I've disputed Ringside News. Eric, they don't treat Matt Riddle like a joke. He's been very well celebrated. Mark says, thank you, Tom, for a great watch along. Hope you have a great weekend. And you, Mark. And in fact, that is SmackDown. So as usual at this point, we will wrap up. They are indeed down the aisle planting some seeds there. And that's why I expect what I expect. So I'm going to wrap up and I'm going to call it there. You will see me again in plenty of videos. There'll be shorts. There'll be TikToks. There may even be a podcast series starting soon that you may enjoy. It will be a variant of Nick and Tom's, but it'll be a podcast. So I'll be looking at podcast options soon enough to try and cover all the areas. And there'll be more quiz stuff coming as well that you may want to check out. But in the meantime, as per usual, thank you, Ghost. Ooh, FTR is saying when their contract is up, they intend to retire. This was going to be the last one. Sean, it's not confirmed yet. I'm saying my opinion. Thank you, Ghost. Thank you, Megan. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Dylan, Leon, Rule. Thank you, Daniela. Thank you to all of you. I look forward to seeing you next time. But for now, I've been Tom Colohue. You have been fantastic, and I'll see you all very soon.